Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the special meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for Tuesday, the 23rd of January 2024. I call for apologies. We have no apologies, but for those attending, you'll see that Councillor Trevor is calling in online. So thank you, Councillor Trevor, for your attendance. Prior notifications of conflicts of interest. Tanya, do we have any prior notifications? Thank you, Tanya. Okay, councillors, obviously if you see any, it's a very short agenda this morning and it is strictly what is on the agenda this morning. So we'll move into our first item on the agenda, which is our officer reports. And the first officer reports is S.1, lease of additional land to impact community services to Rafting Ground Road, Agnes Water. And I'll hand over to the General Manager of Assets and Environment, Mark Francis. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, councillors. We're asking you to consider extending the lease area for Impact Health, who since 2022 have had a lease over part of 2 Rafting Ground Road and Agnes Water. We brought you some information in relation to the expression of interest to undertake a multi-purpose health service to increase the services available to the community previously, and this is seeking your resolution to apply the exemption under section 236 of local government regulation to essentially lease the whole of land to Impact Health.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. Questions to the General Manager, please. Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Not so much a question, but a comment. Impact have been putting a big impact on the Discovery Coast area. I've been working with them since I've been in council, trying to get something happening, and this is a fantastic recommendation, and I'd like to move the motion. Thank you.
Happy to second, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor O'Grady. Thank you, Councillor Churchill. I just want to, it's ridiculous actually, but I just have to flag this now. I just thought of it. During the federal election campaign, I secured $150,000 for Impact Community Services. That might be considered a conflict in some weird world. Tanya?
You declaring a conflict would be consistent to how we've treated other federal funding.
It had nothing to do with this extra lease area. It was to refurbish the buildings that they're in. But I would tell, just because of the date of the year, I'm going to declare a conflict. Sorry about that. I'm going to hand over to the Deputy Mayor to finish the meeting on that item, just because. Didn't even think of it.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Any further questions, councillors? All right, so we've got a mover and a seconder. Councillor Trevor, you're all good? Yep. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare that carried. We'll invite the Mayor back. Thank you.
Yeah, I could have, but yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Good luck. Didn't realise that at the time, and just as we were talking about it, I remembered that one of the many community groups that we secured funding for. Okay, the next item on the agenda is S1.2, which is the Phillip Street Communities and Families Precinct operational model, and I'll hand over to the General Manager of Community and Lifestyle, Carly Lee, and welcome Brianna as well.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillors. I've got Council's Manager of Community Partnerships with me this morning, Bri Jansen, sorry about that, to discuss the Phillip Street Community and Families Precinct operating model. In 2020, Council endorsed an operating model for the Phillip Street Communities and Families Precinct that saw Council being responsible for the operation and maintenance of the $18 million facility. However, to ensure it remained a community asset, we put in place a formal advisory committee made up of community members to ensure that the facility and the services remained relevant and continued to meet the community needs. As per the resolution, Council requested that officers operate under this model for a period of 2 years and then recommend a permanent operating model for the facility. In the 2 years of operation, Council has successfully managed the facility under a unique collaborative model that sees genuine partnership with the facility's tenants, the Salvation Army, GAPDL's Communities for Children, the Neighbourhood Centre, and more recently, the Smith family. Council has maintained the facility to a high standard and well within the budget forecasted for the facility. The advisory committee has gone from strength to strength, with all roles filled by passionate community members who volunteer their time to act as the voice of the community. The advisory committee regularly provide recommendations with regard to the operation of the facility, which are then executed by the established working group. Councillors, as you're aware, the Phillip Street precinct is an award-winning precinct and has regularly been referred to as best practice model for community hubs. We've provided.
Sorry, Kylie, we might have a conflict. Councillor Muscat.
Yeah, I just sort of, I guess, I was looking at this as a service model in a bigger way, but the organisation I co-founded and I'm chair of Strong Communities operates from the precinct, so I like to declare conflict and then leave the room.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Muscat. Thank you, Kylie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Officers have provided their recommendation in today's report, which is to continue to embed the existing operating model, with Council operating and maintaining the facility in a collaborative nature with the strategic advice and community voice provided by the Advisory Committee. Welcome any questions you may have regarding this report.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Mayor Matt. Strongly support the operating model, and thank you for that. I have two questions appropriately. Is that locking in this now service model for the next 2 years, and you made reference to the previous, or might be the previous social infrastructure strategic plan, way back, I think, pre-LNG, and then appropriately we revisited that during, or the Council of the Day revisited it during the LNG to ensure that there was benefits that could be garnered from social infrastructure. And as you'd probably be well aware, the Phillip Street Community Centre was part of the original, and it was probably the final piece in the jigsaw.
It was
So
the
my
number one
question-
priority identified project.
Yeah, as an identified priority project. But my question appropriately is twofold, is that the operating model as it stands at the moment is that, does that restrain budget allocation for the next 2 years under that operating model? Or will you be seeking additional funds to deliver the model over those 2 years? And my second question, please, if you don't mind, because I see them being relevant, is that we are currently reviewing, as you would be well aware, as many would be well aware, we're currently reviewing our social infrastructure strategic plan going forward for new industry. So how adaptable or flexible are we to change that operating model, or be prepared to accept new ideas that might come forward as a result of something positive occurring that's listed as a priority project in our social infrastructure strategic plan? That's a big mouthful. But two questions: budget, and the other one is how flexible is the operating model to garner or cater, embrace any new ideas that might come forward?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Churchill. I'll start with the operating model. So the operating model that we're suggesting is permanent. So we've trialled the operating model for 2 years at Phillip Street. What we're asking Council for today is to endorse that as the permanent operating model for the facility. The budget that you're referring to is consistent, so we will be maintaining the budget as per the budget provided in the report. So we're not asking for any additional money to facilitate this operating model. So that's hopefully answering question number one. Question number two, around flexibility if the precinct is expanded. So as you know, the precinct has been master planned. We are currently in Phillip Street Section 1A. There is the ability to expand in 1B, which is the front of that particular block of land. With the operating model that we currently have, it's collaborative in nature. So any tenant that comes to Phillip Street will become part of the working group and part of the collaborative decision-making that we currently operate under. And that was attached in the service model attachment to the report. The advisory committee will always be the voice of the community, so we'll always be asking for community representation to ensure that the facility remains relevant, but the operators at the precinct will also have a voice as far as the way that the precinct is managed. I hope that answers your question,
Yeah, no,
Councillor
it does
Churchill.
to a degree. I suppose the last point of it is, as I've often said, and others do, we don't know what we don't know. So as long as we can embrace any new idea or new innovative idea that perhaps might come from within our community or as a result of efforts for our social infrastructure strategic plan, as long as the operating model will allow that to occur.
I think that's just part of continuous improvement, Councillor Churchill, so we will always be flexible with that regard, and if there is an improvement to the operating model that we need council endorsement for, we'll definitely bring that to the table.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Grady.
Sorry, I don't have a question, but I'd just like to thank the council for letting me sit on the advisory board over the last 3 years. It's been great. It's been great to see Phillip Street just grow like it has. So thank you so much. I'll just be here for another 53 more days' time. So, so I'd just like to thank you.
You can stay on the advisory board. Why not?
And
You be a
thank you,
community
Councillor
rep.
O'Grady. You have had a lot of input and a lot of advocacy for our operating model and for the advisory committee, so thank you so much for that. And to Councillor Muscat as well, who also joins Councillor O'Grady on our advisory group. Thank you.
We'll talk about that later. You don't get away from everything. All right, any further questions, councillors? All right.
I do think Councillor Muscat does a good job on that as well, because her major brief in life is with community. So, yeah,
Yeah.
she does a great job. Both of you.
No further, Councillor Goodluck?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Kylie and Bri. There's a lot of information in the operating model. Who is that targeted to? Is that just mainly an internal document? Is it an external? Who's likely to want to seek that out and read that information?
It's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. The way that we've actually, sorry, let me go back and start that sentence again. We have an induction process which refers to our service model under 4 different levels. So the advisory committee are well versed in the extensive part of the operating model and the service model documentation. The working group is also, they get at quite a high level. Anyone that operates in our facility or hires our building are briefed on our operating model and how we wish to work. And then the community, obviously, we do provide this to the community more largely as well. So it just depends on how involved you are in the operation of the precinct as to how much information we provide. But we certainly do provide this to anyone that's a part of our facility or hiring our facility.
And have we had any feedback on whether that has been valuable to people?
Have you had any feedback from any of the hirers? Yeah, just on the induction. Good feedback on the induction? Yeah, sorry. We have had positive feedback from our hirers on the induction and from the community on our induction.
Yeah. And, you know, there's, as I said, there's a lot of information in there. There's, you know, socio-demographic data and all sorts of things, which gives a really good snapshot, I guess, of the region and the environment that we're working in. Is that to be a live working document that will change as times go? Yeah. Okay.
So it's informed by the theory of change, which you would find in that document there. So the way that the theory of change operates is from the voice of the community. So if something needs to change in our service delivery, then our formal advisory committee will suggest that change, and this will then reflect that. Yeah. So it will be a live document. It needs to be.
Yeah. And I guess just my last question, is there a you know, being such a in-depth document, is there like a brochure version, snapshot version that we give to people, a one-pager, or is this, do we just pull the information that's required when needed? Not everyone's going to sit there and read a 60-odd page document, however big it is, yeah. Or is this just what we use and that's fit for purpose?
The induction gives a really great snapshot of this particular service model documentation. It has a lot of videos, a lot of diagrams. It's quite interactive, so that is the snapshot version, and I can forward that to all the councillors to have a look through that if you'd like.
That'd be great. Yep.
Yeah,
I like
no
that, and then we'll
problem.
quiz them to make sure they watched it the following Tuesday, starting with the Deputy Mayor.
Quiz away, Mr Mayor. No, thank you very much.
Councillor Hanson.
Having sat in on one of the original, I think, consultations with Roger's consultation, he's a fairly good big leader in this field, so I had good faith in him in what he was putting together at that time. So, and I'm sure he's done a lot more community consultation afterwards. So, if that's all gone into this, that's all good.
Any further questions, councillors? Someone to move the officer's recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. A seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. That council maintain the current operating model for Phillip Street Communities and Families Precinct. All in favour? Thank you. Motion's carried. Can we have Councillor Muscat back in the room, please? Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is S1.3, which is tender 139-23, Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre Cafe, Restaurant, Lease and Catering and Bar Services. Thank you, not Kylie. Hang on, let me read what I'm handing over to the Acting General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Jessica Rosso. Thank you,
Morning,
Jess.
surprise. This report, we're seeking council to endorse a recommendation to enter into contracts with the Light Group for both the lease of the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre Cafe and catering and bar services. So the recommendation here is to enter into a lease for a period of 5 years with extensions for 3 by 5 further years for a total of 20 years maximum, and also for the catering and bar services for 5 years with an option to extend for a further 5 years. A little bit of background here. So council is looking to seek a suitably experienced commercial operator to lease the cafe and restaurant directly connected to the GECC. We're also seeking a suitably experienced operator to deliver catering and bar services. The existing leasing contract with the Light Group are set to expire on the 28th of February 2024. So the tender was conducted, it went out in October of 2023 and returned on November with one offer received. Received a high score from the evaluation panel. This offer did also have proposed capital investment, which has led to them requesting an extended lease period to ensure they receive a return on their investment. The additional time also gives a chance for providing continuity and security for advanced bookings, which are usually 2 to 3 years in advance at the GECC.
And we might just hold that for a second there, and I'll throw to the Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. It's just occurred to me that, sorry.
Yeah, this happens when you get special meetings. They just prop up you very quickly. Normally you have a fortnight to go through an agenda.
Yeah, I operate under an ABN as a musician locally, and I don't frequent the Lightbox, which is why it didn't occur to me, but I do at Auckland House. I've got future bookings, outstanding invoices, etc., and it's just occurred to me that the Light Group obviously operates Auckland House as well, so I'll declare a conflict of interest and leave the room.
Councillor Goodluck, are you declaring a declarable conflict or
What's the other one called?
prescribed conflict?
I think that's
yes.
prescribed.
Is it?
You've got a financial interest in this.
I don't know that that's part of the prescribed.
Okay, well, let's get it to
conflicts.
you. You've got to get the right one.
Yes, you do, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
Yes, you do, Mr Mayor. Yes, you do,
I-
Mr Mayor.
I don't believe it is
Okay.
prescribed. I think it's declarable. It's quite remote. There's no contract specifically relating to this actual award.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll declare a declarable and leave the room and double check that, Mr
Yeah.
Mayor. Just
It's
thank
fine.
you.
We've got it on live stream. Thank you, Tanya. Our Manager of Governance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And back to you, Jess.
Thank you.
When Khan goes. Yeah, keep going, Jess, thank you.
So just finally, looking at the finance implications at the end of your report here, you can see we've separated years 1 to 10, which would potentially include both the lease and the catering and bar services, for a total of $2 million across the 10 years. And then we've got years 10 to 20, which would just be the lease component for $809,000. I might just pass to Kylie if there's anything she'd like to add.
Thanks, Jess. The reason for the lengthy lease period that we're requesting today for both the Lightbox cafe and the catering, there are definitely operational synergies between the two. The head chef that works for the Light Group is also the chef for our catering, the head chef for our catering and bar services, and they also use the staffing from both the Lightbox to operate our catering services and the delivery of those catering services at the GECC. So we are asking for those lengthy terms. There's also some capital investment that the Light Group are interested in, and you've got a confidential attachment that shows you that. So it's really reinvigorating the CBD and really livening that space up. So to get a return on investment, they are asking for a lengthier lease period. This is also consistent to the lease period that Rockhampton Regional Council have offered, a 20-year lease on the boat shed on the Rockhampton River.
I've got a question, but I'll come back to me. Councillor Churchill.
No, I'm happy for you as Mayor to ask the question first, if you like.
Well, mine was
it
around
may be relevant.
Mine was around 20 years. The only tenderer we got, so it's so yeah. A significant facility, our Entertainment Convention Centre, which celebrates 10 years next month, which some people said would be a white elephant. Well, look what it's done for the CBD and bringing economic development into our community and how
We had confidence, Mr Mayor.
I know we did.
We always had.
We did, Rick. Anyway, it's 20 years is a long time for a lease. So, but I get we've got one tenderer. They're a very good tenderer. They're very good operators. But I'm just uncomfortable with a 20-year lease. It's very long, but talk me through it maybe and get me there.
There are performance indicators that need to be achieved from the Light Group that will be put into the lease. So that does provide protection for council if, if by some chance they fail to operate in the way that we expect.
Councillor Churchill, then Councillor Braithwaite.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Mayor Matt. I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation, and I'm prepared to move the officer's recommendation. If I just clarify where Mayor Matt was coming from in relation to dot point, or the first dot point, with an option to extend. So that option within the contractual agreement is from both parties, effectively, or is it a performance review that occurs before the end of the 5 years to determine whether they're fulfilling their requirements under the contract? That was my first question. Yep.
With respect to the lease, the lease operates that toward the end of the term, the lessee then has the option to give us notice that they wish to extend the lease, to take up the option, extend for a further term, at which point we would then undertake a quick review to make sure that they're operating in accordance, but the option is Light Group's option to exercise. Our only right is to say, well, you haven't met the performance criteria to exercise the option, but then they also have the opportunity to remedy those breaches. So it's not just I guess what I'm saying, it's not an easy exit for us. We shouldn't consider it being that case.
But it'll still be a performance review.
Yes.
So I'm quite satisfied. Gee, that was a very good response without notice, Tanya. Thank you for that.
I prepared. I reckon she was prepared for that question.
I think there might have been a prep, was there? And the other one was just simply getting an understanding that we're providing that up to 20 years in dot point 1, but we're only going 10 years in dot point 2. Is there something, and comprehensive report, thank you, but is there something that's making that determination as to why we go 20 and we're going 10 for the other service?
Good question. I think it's really important for council, given the commercial value of the contract, to be able to renegotiate at a 10-year period. The 10-year period would align with the option for the cafe as well. So we'll have a review at that 10-year period. But it's really just, I guess, good commercial sense.
Okay, yeah, no, I can understand the commercial sense on it. So in dot point 2, it makes that reference to the same, so I suppose I'm asking the question based on the fact that it's probably going to be the same answer, with an option to extend for one further period. So that option is still a performance review based on what our governance specialist has told us. Okay, thank you. Happy to move.
Well, I'll get a seconder, if there is one. Councillor Branthwaite's happy to second, and then you had a question, and I have more questions.
I did, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. From my point of view, and I suppose the community's point of view, we're extremely proud of how the Light Group has developed and expanded and grown in not only this community, but obviously the northern suburbs, but also what they bring to the town. But looking from a commercial lease type of arrangement, we talk about the 5-year period. Now, with that 5-year period, it also brings a rental review. I notice on the graph here, it's just using the model that we're using for the proposed rental, but there's also a CPI and whatnot through each annual. So I'm just making sure that those sort of things are in place, and it's not just the same amount as written here.
Councillor Branthwaite, as far as I'm aware, we're yet to finalise negotiations on the finer points of the lease, but you would generally expect to see annual CPIs and market review at the option periods.
Yeah, okay. That's really good. Thank you.
It's a good question, Councillor. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but I wouldn't like the word generally. I would like the word we will. You know what I mean? We should be. It should be.
Picking up what you're putting down, Councillor.
Okay, but back to me on the lease terms. So I'm still not comfortable with 20-year lease, but I can probably get there. But what confuses me more is the 10 and the 20-year lease. If in 10 years' time we call tenders for the bar and the catering service, are they going to want an extended 20 years? So they'll never be run in parallel. I think what we're offering at the moment is a lease where you can work collectively or collaboratively between the two facilities which are adjacent to each other. And you can, like you said, they share the chef, who is very, very, very good, by the way. But if we have, in 10 years' time, when tenders are called for the catering and the bar service at the Entertainment Convention Centre, surely then that gives them another advantage because they've already got a 10-year lease on the building next door. And does someone else come in and say, well, we can't take this on unless we get a 20-year lease, so then in another 10 years when the other one comes up, they're never going to match again. I'm just confused about the separation, one being 10, one being 20, and I'd probably be more comfortable with them both being 15. That's just me speaking out loud. I'm thinking out loud, obviously speak out loud every time. I don't know. They're great operators. We have one tender. I don't want to, help me out here, Kylie.
If I can respond, I agree. They are great operators, and they've done a great job over the past 5 years where we've had a lease in place. The proposal from the Light Group was 20 for both. So if that is what council is more comfortable with, and that's 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, with key performance indicators written into the lease. So there are performance metrics there. That is the proposal. What we were bringing you here today was, I guess, some flexibility in that, providing 10 years for catering and 20 years on the building.
I'd be more comfortable with 15 years for both than 20 years for both. But I've got a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation at the moment, so that just might be me thinking that.
I'm happy to amend if that be the case, but we'd need to have some discussion around it. I'm not opposed to that. That was the intent of my question originally.
Yeah.
Why we're doing 20, why we're doing 10, and now become aware that they're asking for 20 and 20 on both. I'm not opposed to changing my subject to what Councillor Branthwaite wants to do, but that's why I was trying to find a parallel as to what was the commercial advantage with us, and perhaps through you, Mr. CEO, acting CEO, you might be able to guide us with that in relation to what the options are in relation to the review, because if there's a variation between the review in 20 years' time and the review in 10 years' time, then we've got a bit of a problem from a commercial perspective.
Because essentially the thought here is to separate two different agreements. So you've actually got one there for the hard infrastructure and then one there essentially for your services. So that was essentially the basis of splitting the thought. The submission that we went out for, or what we asked for when we went to tender, was for 3 + 2 for 5 years. We didn't anticipate receiving a longer, so it has been a discussion internally at officer level to get to the recommendation that's before you today. The recommendation before you is only there because of essentially the thought with respect to the negotiations that will then take place, that when we have in place the relevant performance indicators and essentially commercial steps to ensure that, particularly with respect to the rentals, that they've got the right, essentially, KPIs and CPI indicators. But also, the worry is catering and bar services, that industry is subject to change, in performance, and it's probably a little bit more variable, which is certainly probably why I was probably more comfortable in recommending a lesser term for that. But that was probably my thinking and probably my suggestion to Colin to put in there. So happy to wear that. But certainly, what the proposal from the Light Group was more recognising that they were seeking a longer term because of essentially the renovation and the capital investment that they're looking to make.
Okay. I'm happy to change my motion to 15 and 15.
Okay.
Guided by your advice.
Hold that
Matt.
thought. We've got
Let's have a
some
debate.
questions. I've got Councillor Cameron, then Councillor Muscat,
Yep.
and Councillor Henson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. From my understanding, what they're saying is that the Light Group have requested an extended lease just due to the fact that they are prepared to stump up, I think it's 200,000, is that the figure, in capital works to improve the premises, and they want the extended term to have the ability to recoup their investment or the benefit of the investment. And I don't think that's unreasonable, personally.
Yeah, I saw that, but I couldn't really mention it because of the tender's confidential attachment. And I'm just struggling with the time, with the length. But I get why they want a longer contract. But I'm not sure they can't recoup that in 15 years either. Councillor Muscat.
Mr Mayor, before you go any further, have we got opportunity to go into committee on this?
No.
Okay.
Or tenure?
We can go into close to discuss a commercial contract if it's in the interests of council, should you want to do that.
I thought it had to not benefit. Every other time we've tried to put something in.
I'm just very conscious and mindful of breaching any requirements or any aspects under the regulations when we make reference, or if we were to make any reference to matters that are of a commercially confidential and sensitive aspect.
All right, well, we can, but let's hold that thought. I don't know that we need to. I think we've all read the attachment. Councillor Muscat, you had a question?
No, well, just probably not necessarily a question, but just reflecting on the information we just got. I guess, yeah, there's definitely that investment in the renovations and things, and I can see why they will want a longer lease, but I'm actually quite comfortable with the way the recommendation is presented because it does have those KPIs. I mean, if they also can leave the lease if things no longer are good for the sector, and so I'm sure we do too. So if there is, obviously investment and finance or whatever, that there might be, I don't see why. I don't see the difference really whether 15 or 20 will make a big difference. If I understand where you come from, but whether it's 20 or 15, we already have an extended lease there, and the extended lease isn't on the catering and bar services, and that is a bit different. We could maybe even find a different way of operating the venue, which it's an entertainment centre and an exhibition centre, which is our business. Well, our business is not to run a restaurant. Our business is to run. So that's why I can see why you got to this conclusion and this recommendation. At the same time as obviously not, they asked for 20 in both, so I can see that. So there's negotiation here that I can see that's happened. So I'm happy to support this, and then, but I do understand where you come from. I just don't see that much difference between 15 and 20 either.
5 years is a long time.
Yeah. But I mean,
it's
there
a
is
term and a year of a council.
there are options there to.
Yeah,
But I mean, I'm prepared also to see whether 15 will work. I just think that the way in which you came to this recommendation, it's been sensible and responsible too, in a way. So.
Yeah. I could probably come on the journey for 20 and 20 if that's what council wanted, even though I think 20 is too long. I actually don't think I can support a motion where there's two separate, because I think then we're giving an advantage in 10 years' time to existing operator, because they will have a lease over the other facility next door for another 10 years. So I think then you're in perpetuity setting it up to be the same group running it, which I say again, do an amazing job, but it's not what we're here to discuss, how good they are. I just don't know that that is fair. If you give them a 10-year lease on one, for starters, they wanted 20, but that then splits the building. Catering is different, the GCC is different, I get that, but it's right next door, and you have a strategic advantage if you're leasing the building that shares facilities, toilets and everything, with the entertainment centre. In 10 years' time, they'll put a tender in, and they will definitely, probably most likely, be the preferred recommended tenderer, because they have that distinct advantage of already having a 10-year lease on the building next door. I don't know that I'm comfortable with the recommendation. Sorry, I don't know. I can't support it, and I want to support it. Councillor Hanson, her question.
Yeah, I'm happy with the officer's recommendation. I don't want to. I'm happy with the split. Have over the period they've been with us, and looking from the outside, it all looks good. Have they met performance criteria all along? There's been no problems ever. And what I'm looking at are there risks in moving forward with this group? I don't see any myself, but have you seen any risks?
No, Councillor Hanson, we've got a very good relationship with the Light Group.
Yeah. I'm very happy. I would be very happy to support the original recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. Any further questions, councillors? Well, we have a motion from Councillor Churchill and a second from Councillor Branthwaite for the officer's recommendation. I don't think there's much point in me attempting to amend that. I can read a room. No further questions? Councillor Churchill, you're still happy with your original motion that you moved?
Yeah, I haven't been convinced otherwise, but I was prepared to go on your journey, but you're also now saying that you're prepared to go on our journey.
Well,
so
I'm probably not.
So whatever journey we're going on, we just need to make sure that there is a stipulation, and I'm comforted by the governance officer's response in asking in relation to the performance review and in relation to the option. The fact that we're not going into committee where there were some sensitive aspects, we understand what their contribution's going to be, and they're the only one that tendered under the local government regulations. So, I'm happy to stay
Mr. Mayor,
with
these are business leases,
Yeah.
and I've got great faith in our group that run the leasing part of the organisation, that they have everything in hand regarding leasing, and there's opportunities for both us and the tenderer to break ties down the track, and I'm not sure that will ever happen. Can I just say that the group that's working it now is brilliant, and I would really support them.
If I could just make a final comment, and I'm sure we and my colleagues understand where you're coming from, Matt, but again, unless you've got a,
I'm not going to put a motion that's going to be lapsed for one of a seconder.
Thanks. No. Unless you've got a crystal ball for 10 years period of time, but appropriately, that's...
I'm just uncomfortable with it. I'm very comfortable with the operators. I'm very comfortable with the lease for them. I'm just uncomfortable with the split, and that's why I won't support the officer's recommendation.
I'm not uncomfortable based on what Councillor Hanson's indicated, and then when we get to the 9-year period, then that's obviously when the officers of the day need to make sure that they're extremely vigilant to show no favour, affection, malice or ill will based on the circumstances at the time.
Anything we can do to make you more comfortable
Well,
in the
I probably
motion?
am not comfortable with 20-year lease because I think it's too long. But I'm more uncomfortable with a 10-year lease and a 20-year lease because then I think that sets it up in perpetuity. So I actually would probably prefer a 20 and a 20-year lease because then in 20 years there'll be a whole tender put out to, goodness me, how old will I be then? Someone will have great-grandchildren at that point in time. So it's a long time.
I'll be looking up.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Up. I hope you'll be looking.
I won't be looking down.
Anyway,
You come with me.
no, look.
I'm happy with the resolution.
Are they
yeah,
like
Mr.
5 plus 5 plus 5
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
5
I've heard-
anyway?
yeah.
So
It's time to be reviewed.
I mean, this is also, I see it as a highly, I guess we will, not that we don't do that with everything, but it has a high likelihood of impacting our reputation and et cetera, et cetera. So I will be confident that our officers will look into it to make sure that none of those things that can negatively influence our reputation happen. So,
Just look at the reputation we got out of the LGAQ conference.
Yeah. Oh, they did amazing work. I know.
You know.
Yeah, and
second
the
half.
only tenderer, you've probably got me there anyway. All right, whatever. Look, they do a great job. All right.
There's always difficulties in any commercial agreements, whether we're in government or whether we're in the commercial sector or in the business sector. But as long as what we're doing, and I'm comforted here that we're in compliance with state government legislation in relation to the commercial agreements.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I think we've had enough discussion on the topic. Oh, Councillor Cameron, before I put the motion.
Yeah, with the terms of the lease after the 5 years, is there a market review after 5 years or after 10?
Councillor Cameron, we haven't finalised those negotiations, but that would generally be the way that we would negotiate our leases, with a market review in there.
At 5 years?
At the option period, yes,
the
at
option
5
period,
years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does that help?
I expect that to be part of it. I'm still struggling with the two being split in different year frames. But anyway, it's okay. I've been here for a long time. I understand how a vote goes. So we've all had a say anyway. We've got mover in Councillor Churchill, second in Councillor Branthwaite for the officer's recommendation. I put the motion. All in favour? Those against? It's me. Not because I don't support the group. Motion's carried. Thank you. We'll get Councillor Branthwaite back in the room. Councillor Branthwaite is here. Councillor Goodluck even.
Are you sure you're thinking clearly, Mr Mayor?
No, I'm a bit rattled on that last one, only because I really want to support the operators, but I just don't like the terms. Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Yeah, a little bit. The next item on the agenda, councillors, is S1.4 PSA 92-24 corporate uniforms and PPE. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. This report is seeking resolution from Council to enter into a preferred supplier arrangement for the supply and delivery of staff uniforms and personal protective equipment. So a tender process was followed. It went out in October of 2023 and closed in November of 2023 with 4 confirming offers received. The tender evaluation panel has recommended that CQ Embroidery, trading as Everything Uniform, be awarded as they present the best overall offer to Council. So there was some additional work done on evaluating this, looking at the different alternative brands that were offered by the different suppliers. There are some very specific brands that our people, the people that wear these uniforms, have trialled and requested and understand what they need to be able to do their job comfortably. And that's, along with the lead times that were specified and met by CQ Embroidery, that's part of the recommendation that they be the preferred supplier for our uniforms and PPE. The estimated value of this contract is $320,000 per year, or nearly $1.3 million across a potential 4-year term. So we're looking at a contract of 1 year with the option to extend for a further 3 periods of 1 year, for a total of 4. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Jess. Questions to the Acting General Manager, please. Councillor Muscat's happy to move the officer's recommendation.
My only question would be confidential, Mr Mayor, and we can't do that.
Tanya, can we move into confidential for this item?
I'm happy to
To not go into confidential? let's find out if we're allowed to first.
Confidential tender evaluation.
Yeah. Yeah, but
It's not clear to me, that's all.
oh well.
I'm happy just to let it go.
Is the question you're not clear on something you're allowed to ask in a public general meeting?
No, so I'm happy to move on. Thank you.
Well, we'll get a seconder and then we'll come back to that. Just going to have a seconder, please. Councillor Muscat has moved the officer's recommendation. Anyone? Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. Was that what you were doing? Yeah, so thumbs up there. Tanya, can you help me answer Councillor Hanson's question?
In terms of whether we can move into closed session. So we can move into closed session for negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving council for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of council. So the question is what you want to discuss going to prejudice the interests of council from a commercial perspective?
And if it's not, you're happy to let it go?
I'm fine, let it go.
Okay, all right. Any further questions for our Acting General Manager, please? No? Okay, I have a move in Councillor Muscat and seconded Councillor O'Grady. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. And our final item on our special meeting agenda today is S1.5, Specialised Supplier Slip-on Fire Unit. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you. This report is seeking resolution from council to enter into a contract with a specialised supplier. So there is a need to purchase some additional fire equipment, a slip-on fire unit that is consistent with our existing equipment. It's been identified and reviewed by the team operationally that in order to continue to deliver our burning program safely and effectively, we need at least 2 equipped fire units of the same consistency and capacity so that our staff can use them in the field. This is a specialised supplier agreement as there is only the one supplier who does not use any additional retailers to provide their goods. So the quote here it's $17,460 excluding GST, and we're seeking that this contract be awarded to Bell Fire Equipment so that we can purchase that additional unit.
Pretty straightforward, this one, I think.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Okay, can I get a second and come back to you for that? Second to Councillor Cameron and then Councillor O'Grady question.
My question is, so in the fire season, is it this unit be able to be used by the community at all? So, there are different brigades around the place, so would the community be able to use this equipment?
So the intention of this equipment is used by council and our environment team. So essentially we've got our First Nations fire officer who's out there and working with that. Certainly they engage community groups to help and assist during those times and they will be while they're part of that. But essentially we provide support for the community fire groups through rural fires in another manner. So this is a specific purchase for council equipment.
So it wouldn't be able to be utilised for a fire out on Billawilla Road or Mount Dawson Highway on that one?
If we were asked to support the rural fires in that space potentially, but this is generally supporting our First Nations fire service.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions, councillors? It's moved by Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Cameron. I put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. That is the final item on the special meeting agenda. I declare the meeting closed at 9:48 a.m. Thank you.
you.